Welcome in, guys, to the Full Force Fathers podcast. Alongside my co-host Dave, I am Brett. Welcome in for another go-around here. Episode lucky number 13. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing good, Brett. How are you?
I'm just splendid as a peach.
Speaking of peaches, I just got some this week. They're delicious and they were on sale.
Oh, yeah, I got cherries on sale, so that's just as good as a peach to me. And it's
No,
it's
not
funny.
even close.
It's funny that you bring up something on sale, but I'm throwing a curveball. You have no idea what I'm about to say to you. I was just scrolling the old interweb and I saw an article pop up on my screen here, and I just want to give you the title of it, and then I'm just going to let you dive into it. And it says, and I just saw this on Yahoo. It's courtesy of USA Today. I exhausted my savings. Inflation has Americans turning to loans, credit cards to cope. The question that they pose is, does it pose big risks? Go.
Yeah, of course it poses a big risk. Are you kidding me? You're going to lock yourself into debt for the rest of your life. People aren't going to be able to afford groceries, so they're going to go to the grocery store and they're going to buy food that they're going to pay for the next 15, 20 years at 20% interest. You thought inflation was big now? Wait until you pay for your credit card bill over the next however many god-awful years. And you know what they're probably going to do? They're probably going to take advantage of one of those Delta SkyMiles cards that comes in the mail that you got to immediately spend $2,000 to get your 50,000 bonus miles. Because that'll be a great idea to go on a vacation that you can't afford. Oh, wait, you'll just put it back on a credit card.
What about that?
I don't know. Do you think that poses a risk? I think it does.
What about that banana that you're paying interest on that you bought in 2000 and, here, fast forward, it's 2025. You're still paying for that banana you bought in 2022.
Yeah, I thought I bought bananas on sale for 29 cents a pound. Turns out they were actually $4.29 a pound by the time I got done paying for them.
Oh man, I just saw that article and I'm like, I gotta pick Dave's brain before we even get into the topic of the day, because I'm thinking to myself, the person in there that they use as the example makes $36,000 a year and they have $1,500 a month in credit card payments.
I mean, we're laughing, but it's funny because of how much I hate it. But I mean, realistically, that's what people think is the only way to go about something, to put it on a credit card, because it's been their crutch and their way out forever. And they just look at that mounting debt as something that's a piece of their life, right? It's like everybody saying, oh, you're going to have a car payment forever. No, you don't have to. You don't have to have a credit card payment forever. The bonuses you're getting from it certainly don't pay off, what you're sacrificing for that. So I just think it's stupid. And I think it's going to cause big problems for people down the road. And, right now we have these problems that are actually affecting us in our current situation. And if you can find a way to push through it, maybe it's a second job, maybe it's picking up hours, selling stuff around the house, whatever it may be. Those are all things that you can do to get yourself through the situation so that you're not paying for it after inflation is over. Once this time that we're in right now settles down and goes back to normal, these people that have used this debt as a crutch are still going to be forced to deal with it, versus just pushing through and then getting to the other side.
Yeah, and the article talks about how during the pandemic, when everyone was hunkered home and working remote, and no one wants to admit that the government printing money left and right caused all this problem. But hey, that's a topic for another day. But the government turns on those printing machines and gives people money to stay home for this pandemic of sorts. And it says how amazing Americans pay down their debt and save with their all that free money, quote unquote free money that we were given. But now the credit card debt has skyrocketed 9-10% in households now, because all that free money doesn't get you as far when you're using all that money you saved, because everything's double in price these days,
Yeah, and listen, at the end of the day, things are more expensive, and your budget has to change along with that. But if groceries are more expensive, well, you know what? Maybe for the next 6, 12 months, however long this goes on, maybe longer, maybe you're not going out as much. Maybe you're not doing some of those extra things. Maybe some of the the extra fund money you had is going to go to your grocery bill. But you've got to find room in the budget. You don't just load it up on a credit card and say, it's the situation. What are you going to do? Everybody's in the same boat. No, that's the wrong attitude to have. You've got to be focused. You've got to be laser focused on it right now, especially because there's no room for errors, because everything is very tight for most people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, in my instance, like an example that I use, right? As you know, I'm an athlete. I love to run races, whether it's triathlons or Tough Mudders or Spartan races or marathons or whatever the case may be. You name a race and I want to enter it. That's one thing that I don't know. I won't sign up for a race. And part of me says, I don't, it's in, I can use that $150 for something else. If I want to go run a marathon and put myself out there in that pain, I can just go run a marathon. I don't have to sign up and be around 5,000 people to do it and spend $200 plus a hotel stay and everything else. That's one way that maybe someone like myself that is helping curb our inflation felt at home, because usually I would run a race every other month somewhere. Now I have no races on the schedule whatsoever. And hey, if I save $1,000, you know what you can buy for $1,000 of groceries? Maybe only one grocery cart, but it's still $1,000 you save if you don't spend it on races throughout the year,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you're making a sacrifice and you're staying disciplined to what you believe and how you live. By not doing that, you're contributing that money somewhere else in your family circle, wherever that may need to go, whether it be groceries or a night out with the family or just something that goes to more of what you're believing in the moment. And when times change and we get back to whatever quote unquote normal may be at the end of it, it never goes back to the way it was. It'll be a new normal. Those things change and we can go back to living some of those other ways again.
Yeah. Speaking of races, I just watched a documentary last night. Me and the kids and Andy were all sitting around the TV, and I put on this YouTube documentary that I wanted to watch, and they're like, "Oh, it's about running," And so, but 5 minutes in, they all were glued, and they watched it was a 47-minute documentary. A guy named Nick Bare, who's just an absolute stud of an athlete. He, for those that don't know, one of my bucket list races, it's been a bucket list race of mine for a decade now, is the Leadville 100 in Leadville, Colorado. My younger brother lives there. It's an event that is put on. You can only qualify or get picked by lottery, or you can volunteer a certain number of hours. But obviously, Leadville, Colorado is not an easy get to for anybody to volunteer hours to get into the next year's race. So, but it's about a stud out there who did it, and I'm in. I haven't signed up for a race, but just watching that documentary got me all sorts of fired up. And the girls were asking me all sorts of questions about ultras because I've run ultras before, and it was just. I mean, this is totally off track, but we're talking about races, and I'm like, man, that's the one. Like, if there's one race that I can run or I will run.
So when are you going to do it?
2024, I think.
When's it going to be? 2024. Why 2024? Because
this year it's already closed, and no one really understands what it takes to train for a 100-mile race through the mountains at, anywhere from 9,000 to 12,000 feet. It's a completely different beast, let's say that. But it's something that's right up my alley. I will do it. 2024, I have big goals, and just for me, it's next year probably just isn't like the likelihood, and timing probably won't work out well next summer. We're only a year from now. I need a training block that's going to be 9 months to a year long. And once again, the chances of getting in the lottery and getting picked the first time. So by setting that goal for 2024, and if you listen to any of Nick Bare's stuff, he said he did Leadville, he did a marathon, he did all these long endurance races. He did a 3-year block where he just endurance trained. So he's a big, strong, strapping guy, but for 3 years, he focused solely on endurance events, Ironmans, marathons, 100 ultras, 100-mile races. And now he's shifting out of his endurance block and going back to a strength block. So for the Leadville, that would be like a culmination for me. Like I say, 2024, that's a 2-year block of just logging the miles, being in the suck, dialing in your nutrition, and just being, because I probably in a perfect world, I would lean out another 10 to 12 pounds, which for me, I'm already pretty thin. Because the last thing you want to be doing is carrying a bunch of extra weight. And there's a 30-hour cutoff for that race, which means you got to average 3 miles an hour, essentially. You know what I mean? to get that 100 miles in if you can to do it in 30 hours.
Wow.
So it's a slog. It's a grueling race and everything I ever read about. But yes, it will be on the calendar. 2024 is the hopes for me to run that race.
Nice.
So
Cool.
But anyway, so let's get into today's topic. We just sidetracked you guys probably for 5 or 10 minutes about debt and me wanting to run a 100-mile ultra and, But I want to start with our Bible verse like I usually do, and it comes from Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. Pretty blunt. Love discipline. And it ties into our topic today. Dave, why don't you lift up your shirt and show what your shirt says? And that's going to dive us right into our long-awaited 75 hard episode that we've been wanting to put together. So I'm so excited this episode is here. It took 13 episodes to fit it in the calendar where we both are locked in and ready to talk about it for a bit. So Dave, I'll let you start on 75 hard because you did it first. You introduced me to Andy Frisella and the program. So I'll let you go with it first. You kind of give me your thoughts about it. You did it first. You told me I thought you were going to fail, by the way, but you didn't. You made it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I started 75 hard. I saw a friend of mine, not a real close friend of mine either. It was just somebody that I had used to work with in the past. On game day, we traveled together, and I saw he was doing this thing called 75 hard, and I started looking into it, and I was at a point in my life where I really needed to make a change. So as I read a little bit about it, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start today. It was like noon on the day. It was a day in July of 2020. And I said, I'm going to do this. So I went out for my first workout, and I think I called you during my first workout or right when I wrapped it up. And you're like, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing this thing called 75 hard. Have you ever heard of it? And you're like, I think I heard of it, but no chance in hell I'm doing that. Nope. So I started diving into it, and I didn't know if I was going to succeed either. It is a long 75 days. At least it seemed like it in the beginning. And as you did it, it started to get a little easier. But one of the things that really stood out is the discipline that goes into it and the mental toughness you have to get through it. And that program, honestly, getting through those 75 days is life-changing. And something I'm so grateful that I took on the challenge when I did, and changed sort of the way I look at life and myself and the things I can accomplish in the course of a day. Typically you'll go through your day and you feel like you're really busy and you've got a lot going on. But until you do something like that, where your day is really focused, you realize how much time you actually have to accomplish tasks and to accomplish the tasks that are most important and will, increase your livelihood, both financially, physically, emotionally, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I think 75 hard is, if at its very core for me, it made me excel at time management skills. Something that I'm a fly by the seat of my pants type of guy. Like one day I'll wake up and say I'm going to run 10 or 20 or 5 or whatever. You know what I mean? I was always that type of person. My wife always kept me grounded and schedulized. That's not a word, but it is now. But time management skills are the biggest takeaway from that program. And if for those of you that don't know what the hell we're talking about, 75 hard is a program. It is not a challenge. It is a program, and it's meant to be done for an entire year. There's an entire live hard program that goes for the year. But what 75 hard is a program for 75 days. And in those 75 days straight, you have to do 2 workouts a day, minimum of 45 minutes each. One of those workouts has to be outside. Those workouts cannot be back to back. So you can't do 45 and 45, do a 90 and call it 2 workouts. You have to do them separated. I think it's by a minimum of 3 hours before they can be classified as two separate workouts. Okay. You have to drink a minimum of a gallon of water. That doesn't mean seltzer water. That doesn't mean flavored water because you don't like water. It has to be water. Water is water. Fill up a gallon, start drinking it when you wake up. When that gallon's empty before you go to bed, you drink a gallon of water. Too many people want to doctor it up because they don't like it, yada, yada, yada. this whole entire this whole entire program is to challenge your mind and to not cheat and not fail. So you have 2 45s, one has to be outside, 3 hours separate them. You have to have a gallon of water consumed. You have to pick a diet for those 75 days and stick to that diet. You cannot have any cheat meals. Another huge one for people, you cannot drink any alcohol. So for those of you that like beer or a cocktail after work, you're done. Like, no alcohol. All right. And you have to read 10 pages in a self-development, self-help, non-fiction book, not a fiction book. Can't read a romance novel and call it 10 pages. And you can't do audiobooks or podcasts. It has to be 10 pages read in a book with the book in your hand each and every day for 75 days. If you fail, you have to take a picture, a progress picture every day. So whenever that is throughout the day, you got to take a picture of yourself in front of a mirror every single day. Those are your tasks of 75 Hard. Download the app. It's the easiest way to do it. The program's free. I think it's $4.99 for the app. You can buy the book if you want. So, and if you fail at any of those in the 75 days, at any point, you have to start over. The program is done. So if you don't drink your gallon, if you don't get your workouts, if you don't take your picture, if you don't read your book, if you don't stick to a diet, if you have a sip of booze, you fail all the way back to day one. And that's what makes it so difficult, because 75 days is a long time. It's 2.5 months. I experienced it. I completely completed 75 Hard the first attempt. I know a lot of people fail it multiple times because some vice gets them, something grabs them, something pulls them. They make a stupid excuse. They're not disciplined enough, whatever the case may be. The program is meant to make it be difficult. It's not called 75 easy. It's called 75 hard. And it's hard, but it's life-changing. Dave hit on it.
Yeah, it is hard.
It's financially, it made me, I've never had a better financial year than the year I did 75 Hard. I never had a better faith-filled year than 75 Hard. The discipline into my fitness was dialed in, for those 75 days, and I carried it over to throughout the rest of the year. But it's super hard. It's super difficult, but it is a life. If you actually do the program, like the right way you do the program, it is a life-changing program. Right, Dave?
Yeah, it is life-changing. I mean, you hit on it just before. I mean, the year I did it, I followed up that year with the best financial year of my entire life. And there's no coincidence between the two things. Now, I did 75 Hard. I hit it on the first try, as you did. And then I went into the Live Hard program. So I carried that through for 365 days. Now, there were points in the Live Hard program a couple different times where I faltered in those additional steps of the process, and I had to restart. At that point, you restart to whatever phase you're in. So it's not just you don't always just make it through. You got to hold yourself accountable. You need to stay disciplined. And if, like I said, holding yourself accountable is the most important part. Nobody knows whether or not you did all this stuff except for yourself. So are you just going to cheat yourself, or you're actually going to do it, right? So that was the thing for me. I made it through 75 Hard. I failed a couple times during the different phases of Live Hard, and I restarted at those phases because ultimately holding yourself accountable is what it's all about. And yeah, it was the best physical year of my life, certainly the best financial year of my life. Focusing my time even outside of it. So once you finish the 75 days, you're to keep carrying on with that process, to keep going with your power list, and to keep building on that momentum that you've created, and really see the change in your lives. And it's magnifying to me. I mean, I'm going through it again right now. I started the 75 days, and Casey's actually doing it with me, which I'm incredibly grateful for, and having accountability partner right in the house. It's amazing. I'm proud of her for doing it. And it's just one of those things that it's not just a one-time thing. You do this and it's over. It's designed to do this every year to keep you in control, keep you disciplined, keep you focused, and to keep just growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah. And if you find yourself in a place where you're unhappy about anything in your life, whether it's your job or it's your relationships or it's your money, or your faith, whatever the case may be, if you find yourself at all unhappy at any point in any place in your life, then I'll ask you a question. Is it worth sacrifice for 75 days to literally kickstart your life on a better path? I mean, it's 75 days. Depending on how old you are, you could have wasted the last 25 years or whatever. So I can't do that for 75 days. That's what I hear all the time. People tell me I'm crazy. I hear it all the time. I can't tell you how many. I told Dave he was crazy the first time he told me he was doing it. But I hear it all the time from friends of mine that go, I'm not doing that. Yeah. It's stupid. Okay, well, I don't have time for it. I don't have time for I'll tell you another thing it did. It cut a lot of bullshit out of my life. A lot of those fake relationships are have gone away because of the time management that you learn in the program. You just don't have time for bullshit. You don't have time for the haters. You don't have time for the critics. You don't got time for people that, the only people that criticize are the people that are unhappy. I don't know if anyone knows that, but that's the truth. The only people that will ever throw shade your way and tell you you're nuts or criticize you for what you're doing are people that are unhappy with their current situation. And it cuts a lot of that crap out. You don't have time for it. It's the time management thing. I'll tell you right now, I went from 25 texts and phone calls a day outside of my work, and BS that way to, dude, I have a core now. I have a core group of friends and a core group of family members that I talk to all the time regularly because it literally shaped my circle. It tightened up my circle to cut bait. Fish or cut bait is a good saying in the fishing world. I cut bait of a lot of just dead weight that was hanging on. You know what I mean? And if I piss people off, oh well, I'm trying to better myself, and that's what this program does for you. And Dave, what kind of, for those of us that are wondering, what kind is it? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What kind of diet did you follow? Just some generic questions that people ask me, and I want to ask you because, like I said, you showed me this program, you started it, you did it before I did. So what works? What doesn't work? What kind of diet? Kind of hone in on a couple of the specifics.
Yeah, for me, the first time I did it, and I am now that this is the second time I'm going through it, what I found is it's easier to have a routine with it. And you kind of told me that after you went through it. You did the same thing, the same time every day as best you could. Mm-hmm. There were obviously days that you couldn't, but for the most part, and I think that's true. I think if you can get yourself into a routine, you say, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink my first bottle of water, and I'm going to go out and get my first 45 in. And then follow it up throughout the day, whatever your routine is, you stick to it. And I think that's a key element. For me, I used the Weight Watchers diet. It's a diet that I've done in the past that worked well for me and in losing weight. And when I started 75 Hard up front, the reason I did it is because I was unhappy physically and I wanted to make changes there. And all the other things, the benefits that came with it were so much more impactful than just the weight loss and the physical abilities that you get from it. But I did Weight Watchers. I thought it worked well for me. The change I made on Weight Watchers though is I didn't eat any of the crap. I didn't allow myself to eat desserts or chocolates, depending on those of you who know what Weight Watchers is. It's a point system. And depending on what you eat in the day, you have a certain amount of points you can use. So if you've got a decent amount of points left, you can have a piece of chocolate and be okay at the end of the day. So I eliminated that from the diet for myself because I wanted to keep it as clean as possible. But for me, I didn't want to count calories, macro, like all that thing. It made it simple in that form. So that's why I chose that. And again, when I jumped in, because it was more of a physical thing for me, I did double cardio every day. And the majority of the time I did them both outside just because I like being outside. We moved to Arizona to be outside as much as we could. So that made it easy for me. And that kind of sped up that process for me. And it made it go by quick because it was, high intensity most of the time. And it was great. And, another thing I want to touch on too, what worked is just staying focused. That's what works. There's so many excuses we can use. 75 days is a long time. There's usually a holiday or two that spans in that time. So, saying, I can't do it because there's a holiday coming up. No, there's always going to be something. I did this working 40 plus hours a week, going to an office, traveling around the country, getting my stuff in everywhere I went. I traveled to Kansas City during 75 hard for 2 weeks. I was in Kansas City. I went to a gym there. I signed up at a gym for 2 weeks, and I was able to do one workout in a pool there they had. That's why I did it. I signed up so I could jump in the pool, do 45 minutes there, and then I would go for a walk or a run after work every day while I was there. So like, you just have to fit it in. You have to be focused, and you have to stay disciplined. If you can, there's always a way to do it. Doesn't matter where you are, what time of the year it is, what day of the year it is, you can do it.
Right. Absolutely. And for me, routine is, I preach routine all the time. I've had the same morning routine. I can't even tell you for how long, but for me, the diet, I know Dave did the Weight Watchers, and this is just to give you another idea. I intermittent fast from, I have pretty much essentially since the start of the 75 hard, the first time I did it, which was January of 2021. So we're talking almost a year and a half ago. I intermittent fast Monday through Friday. Sometimes I do it 7 days a week. It all depends on the groove and the mileage that I'm running and whatnot. But for me, it was all about the routine. The same thing every day. The diet was an intermittent fast diet, but also very routine based. I ate the same things every day. Andine would switch dinner up because Andine did it with me as well. Andine would switch dinner up at night, but my quote unquote breakfast, which wasn't until noon or 1 every afternoon because of the fast, was the same thing every day. My snacks and my quote unquote lunch later in the afternoon, I just didn't deviate from the plan because I realized that being a creature of habit and being on a plan and, was the best way for me to do it and the best way for me to get through it, because the physical part wasn't the hard part. The exercise wasn't the hard part. You just gave me a ticket to exercise more is all you did. For me, it was the other things. I'll tell you, the alcohol, Dave and I have been friends for a while. We used to always have a beer or two here or there, a cocktail here or two, I have yet to have a sip of alcohol since that first day of 75 hard last January. So we're talking, I don't know, I'll do the basic math in my head really fast, January to June. Over 500 days now consecutively where I have not had a sip of alcohol. And it really changed my entire mindset on alcohol. There's literally zero benefit from drinking, period. So that's one thing that I took from the original program last January and held it all the way through, right? And I have no desire to drink anything. I see it. I've been around parties. I've been at weddings, whatever. I have zero desire to drink. And I like I've said in a podcast before, I probably don't think I ever will ever again. But, but my diet was an intermittent fast diet. The other thing that I did to my diet too is, and I still do it to this day, no food after 8 p.m. All right. So that's a diet hack in general for guys out there and girls out there and fathers and whatnot to better yourself, to get better sleep, because most of the time, unless you have a long day at work or something, you come home and you eat dinner late. Most of the time, the only food you're eating after 8 p.m. is not good for you. That's the perfect snack time. That's the chip time. That's the ice cream time. That's the chocolate time. So my diet, was just eating clean, fasting, and then no garbage, especially no food after 8 o'clock, and then the no alcohol thing I've carried over, like I said, for over 500 days now. And I don't plan. So the time management thing, helped me with all of that. Now most people think I'm nuts. Like I got, cause I eat at the same time. I still do that. I still get up at the same time every day. I still eat the same food every single day, but it's just, like I said, it's a program for those of you that find yourself struggling in any part of your life to do the program. And when you finish 75 hard, now Dave has finished the Live Hard program. I never finished the Live Hard program. I did 75 hard. We went on a summer-long camping trip last year. I came back. I did knock out phase 1, which we don't need to get into the entire program, but because the focus of this podcast is 75 hard itself, to do 75 hard and go buy the book or go get the app and just start it today. Like Dave said, he started at noon in a July day in Tucson. God, that's probably the worst time you could ever want to do it, But like I did phase 1, I did phase 2. I'd never completed phase 3. Maybe this year I will, because I did do 75 hard again to start this year. January, same exact day, January 4th, Finley's birthday. I started 75 hard again, So, and I failed phase 1 just a couple of weeks ago. I jumped on, started phase 1, and I failed because, we had a birthday and I had a piece of cake. That shit happens. You're going to fail, but it's what you do with it. You know what I mean? So, maybe I'll do the whole Live Hard program this year. I don't know. I would like to, But all I know is by starting 75 Hard since January of 2021 until June of 2022, when we're recording this podcast right now, my life is 1,000% better than it was on January 3rd of 2021.
And I would also say too, Brett, like if had we not done that, I don't know if we'd be sitting here doing this right now.
Yep, you're right. I think you're right.
You know, it pushed us. You know, a big part of the program, as you start diving into it, is something called the Power List, and it's 8 critical tasks that you'll do every single day. And I know we both put, you know, items that related to full force fathers on our Power List every single day, and that helped get us here.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And it's the discipline, right? Our proverb talks about discipline. And if you don't like correction, you're stupid. Well, guess what? That's why my wife's here. That's why 75 Hard's here. That's why I have a coach in my business, right? You have to be open to correction. Nobody gets 100 on every test they've ever taken in their entire life. You get, right? When we were in grammar school, you got your test corrected, right? There's a real thing. Like correction is a real thing in life. You need to correct yourself if you're going down the wrong path or you're driving down the wrong road. You correct yourself if you're on a bad diet, you know, and the discipline, the time management skills, just the overall feeling of like, you know, you almost get when you're locked in like day 30, 35, 40, 45, and you're in a groove. I mean, shit, you almost feel invincible when you're on that program. Like nothing's going to stop you because you're so dialed in. You don't have problems. You're not scared to say no to people, you know, like you're dialed in. You're in it. You know, my relationship with my wife is better. Like people are like, oh, it takes too much time. No, it doesn't. It's because you don't know what you're doing with your time. You don't have a clue what you're doing with your time. You're doing so much frivolous bullshit throughout the day, playing on your phone and this, that, and the other thing. You don't even know what you're doing with your time. Go look at your phone and see what your screen time stats are. I promise you, when you're on 75 Hard, it's 25% of what it is when you're not on the program. So,
yep.
You know, that's really all I got to say about the program. Dave, I'm just thankful for you because you're the one who introduced it to me, which, you know, set a lot of things in motion that have happened with us and just life in general since last January. So, you know, I think everybody should do 75 Hard. I don't give a shit if you're the fittest human on earth. I promise you will learn something from 75 Hard. I don't care if you're the richest man on earth. You will learn something from doing 75 Hard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It doesn't have to be just for one. Again, I started it because I wanted it to be a physical thing, and it changed so many different areas of my life. So it's full encompassing, everything that you can imagine with it. Every aspect of your life will get better by doing it.
Yeah, and you started because of a physical change. I started because I wanted a mental change, a mental toughness change. But guess what? Dave saw the physical transformations. I mean, I was already in really, really good shape. I mean, you just cutting out that food after 8 o'clock, you know, I lost 17 pounds. I didn't even know I had 17 pounds to lose. And I lost 17 pounds and just shred it out. You know what I mean? So if you want a physical change, do it. If you want a mental change, do it. You know, that's really, I think that's a good ending point when it comes to 75 Hard is just start. Like Dave's shirt says, we ain't the same. Once you do that program, you're not the same. You're not the same. You're not the same as anybody else that's out there. You're different. You're absolutely different.
Yep. Well, why don't we hop into the book recommendation, Brett?
So the book is right behind me here. It is called Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf. How to Fall in Love with the Process of Becoming Great. This book is phenomenal. It is very thin. It has got big words. It is really a nice, easy read. The moral of this story is to do the simple shit extremely well. Be consistent. Chop wood, carry water is the theme of the book. All right? Do the basics great. Get great at doing the basics, and it just sets you up for everything else. Consistency and doing the simple things extremely, extremely well. It's a great read. It's a quick read, and you'll read it again because there's so much wisdom that comes from this book that it's just... I've already read it twice. It just talks about everything under the sun. But the moral of the story, chop wood, carry water, means do the simple things extremely well, and it will just set you up to do everything else that you do in your life great. So,
What'd you do there?
Just need my.
For those of you watching on YouTube. What's
Yeah,
the
sorry
next
about
thing
that.
to
I
do?
just need my.
Oh my
I
lord!
just need my desk because my legs are so daggone long. So, any other thoughts, Dave?
man.
Any other thoughts?
You
today?
know what? I got one question for you. This is going to be ridiculous, but you threw me for something in the beginning. Now, you mentioned something there about getting a low test score and how there's always corrections to a low test score. I'd like to know what your lowest test score was in school.
Me?
Yeah.
Oof. I don't know. We could do a whole podcast on my education. I mean, in college, I was a Dean's List college because I tried in college. In high school,
I don't want to hear about your dean's list. I want to hear the lowest score you got.
oh Jesus, I can count. I can't even count how many Fs I got in high school. I got tons. I graduated high school because at the end of the year they give you like that, where your rank is in the class. I graduated in high school like number 212 out of like 290. So I was less than 50% of the percentile. I probably averaged C's and B's in high school, probably higher C's than anything. So I'll tell you, I've gotten F's on tests if that's my lowest test score. Because I realized in high school I didn't want to be there.
Do you want to know what mine is?
What?
7.
You got a 7 on a test?
I got a 7 on a test.
I don't remember.
It was in high school. It was a math class.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Got a 7.
I don't remember getting a single-digit test score, but I've failed many a test in my life. But on that note, Dave, I hope you guys found some value in this show today. Go do 75 hard. Dave, take us on home, buddy.
All right, everybody, get out there, live the full force life. Go check out 75 hard. Just dive in right now. Go for it. Dive in. And also check out Andy Frisella's podcast, Real AF. He puts out amazing content, and I just want to give him a shout out too. So get out there, live the full force life. We'll talk to you soon.